We're excited that you're tuned in for a time of reflection with Miss Aaliyah Butler. Is your show? She's an author, motivator, inspirational speaker, who's on fire to inspire the world. She's a girl to inspire, on fire, on fire, to inspire, on fire. Says she on fire. On fire, to inspire, on fire, to inspire, inspiration, motivation, encouragement, empowerment. You need inspiration, a little bit of motivation. As well as thank you for tuning in to the show. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the sponsors of the show. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to On Friday Inspire. I am your host, Aaliyah the Purpose Midwife. I want to thank you so much for joining us this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday evening. You could have been doing anything else, but just chose to spend it with us. And for that, we're totally grateful. Y'all, I tell you, I'm excited about the topic. I'm excited about my guests. Before we hop on to that, our topic tonight is trusting and adjusting. But before we go in, I want to thank our sponsors, okay? So we're going to thank our sponsors. My big brother and pastor, he is an author, and he's an actual, what do you call it? He's a preacherpreneur, because he actually has several businesses. He is an author as well. Leadership Inside Trajectory is definitely, if you are a leader of any capacity, you need this on your bookshelf. And you can get it at iworkfaith.com. Now, you can also book him to come in and do trainings and things of that nature, because he is a certified trainer and leader in from John Maxwell training. So he is a John Maxwell certified, that's how you say it, certified trainer and speaker. So you want to get this book, I Work Faith, at iworkfaith.com, from Leadership Inside Trajectory. And I tell you, if you are a leader, you need this in your arsenal. Also, if you are a woman, mother, is called mombizboss.org. Mom, B-I-Z, boss.org. You want to go to Mom Biz Boss and join this group of amazing, amazing moms who are doing it. There are different entrepreneurs, and it's an opportunity to network, maybe collaborate, and you can go to mombizboss.org and join that group. I tell you, there's a monthly brunch. They used to have virtual during the pandemic, but they're back in person. So ladies, they have different ones around the different areas. I know in Atlanta, they have 2 or 3 chapters there now. And then for those of us who are no longer in Atlanta, you can actually still join virtually. Finally, and thank you, shout out to UEB Designs for our beautiful accessories. UEB Designs with our accessories, as well as my mug. They know that over there that everything I do inspires others, right? And so thank you to UEB Design. And then finally, if you don't have a copy of any of my books, I don't know why. But anyway, if you have small children or you have a little person in your life, you can actually get a copy of the children's book, A Learning Book Just for Me. It's bilingual teaching foundational English and Spanish. And then the actual second book was a book that I wrote 9 years ago, which was actually the preview, the premise of before we actually would launch the show. So the book came out, and then 7 months later, the show came. So we are about to have our 9-year anniversary, y'all. And then finally, my last two projects are an affirmations coloring book and journal. And um, if you have teenage girls, if you have women's groups, I do sessions with teen girls as well as women. We have affirmations inside of the journal as well as the coloring book. And, it's reminding you that you are complete. You are fearless. Everything in here, it has the word to remind you of who you are. And then in the very back, you have the complete affirmation with the word of God on it to confirm that thing for you. All right. So thank you again for hopping on in with us. Do me a favor. I want you to share this with a friend and sow this into someone's life. So hit that share button for me because we're going to hop on in. We're going to invite our coach, uh, Tanya, over here to the broadcast because this is her first time in. So I don't know why I keep calling her Tanya. I think I've been talking to somebody earlier today, but Coach Sandy is joining us. So Coach Sandy, welcome to On Fire to Inspire. Are you here?
Yes, I am.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I can't see you right now.
Okay, let's see what my camera is trying to.
There we go.
Can
Now
you
we
see
see
me
you.
now?
And then there was light.
Man, there
Welcome to
was.
On Fire to Inspire. How are you this grand evening?
I am doing wonderful, doing great, actually.
Absolutely glad to hear it. So, Coach Sandy, tell the listeners who is Coach Sandy. You're on mute.
All right, let's get this right. All right, once again, good evening. Thank you so much for having me on here, Aaliyah. It is a pleasure being on here. Congratulations on your upcoming ninth year of being on the show and all the accolades and accomplishments that you've had. So, who is Coach Sandy? Coach Sandy is a multi talented, multifaceted woman of God who is a coach, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and most of all, I am a coach and I'm also a newly published author of the book that God birthed in me, Gracefully Broken.
And congratulations to that, because that's like a birth all in itself.
It is. It absolutely was. Definitely was. Definitely was.
I love it. I know when I wrote my first book, the children's book, I used to tell people, I say, and my second child, her name is Precious the Panda. That's the name of the character. So I have one child, but that's who I called Precious the Panda, my second child. Now, you've told everybody who Coach Sandy is. Now, the topic, trusting and adjusting. You're back on mute, but trusting and adjusting. What does the topic mean to you? What does that hit home for you? What does that say for you to you?
Trusting and adjusting definitely hits home for me on so many different levels, really. Um, and my trust and adjusting really started on a very high level with God. As it related, as 2016 when my life really took a huge turn, a very sudden but huge turn. And I really had to do that faith walk thing, Aaliyah. And in that moment, I literally used to just tell people, I'm doing this faith walk. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it's going to take me. I don't know how it's going to end, but I'm doing this faith walk and I'm just trusting God. And so trusting and adjusting is really big for me because in that moment, I had to trust Him as my life was adjusting big time, right? So it really hits home very, very much so.
Hmm. You know, people talk about faith walks, but sometimes they don't realize how big that faith walk can be. And when you're what's it's a saying that they say, when there's nothing else, what is that? You remember that saying where it says when you're down to nothing, God is up to something,
Yeah.
and you were like, okay, God, I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna trust you. So we're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
How you were.
Yes. That's exactly where I was. Um, and just backstory for that, I was married at this time for 16 years, right? And tragedy hits in our family, and things just literally took a very sudden turn. And in 2 months, um, I was moving from being married and living in a home with my family to leaving to live on my own for the first time, and in a country that I never lived in before for the first time.
Wow, that's a lot. That's like action packed all by itself. Not only did you have to live alone on your own, but now you're in a whole nother country and you're like, whoa, within 2 months?
So really, I was here, right? But when I moved here, my husband already lived here. His family was already here. So you kind of came to a support system.
Hmm.
Moving 2 months in 2016, this was like 10 years being here. Now things were changing. You're going to live on your own. I don't know what that looks like living in America, living on your own, right? Because I never lived on my own here. I came here to a husband who already kind of had a foundation laid. And
Hmm.
I really had to learn my way around being a single mom for the first time, being a separated woman, job change, house change, learning how to buy a home on your own. I mean, it was a lot of adjustments.
And I commend you because guess what? You did it. You did it. You got through it. And now you can encourage that next woman that says, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know,
Hmm.
our testimonies are not for us, they're totally for someone else to help them through. Now, um, in that transition and that faith walk, you had to do something. What was that?
Whew. Well, let me back up to say this. Sometimes our faith walk doesn't start with us deciding to make that faith walk. Um, in my book, as I mentioned, I just wrote the book Gracefully Broken, and in that book, I have a chapter, chapter 7, and it's called The Faith Walk, the Exodus Experience, right? And sometimes God knows it is time. Like the children of Israel, they prayed for so long, right? And they asked for a deliverer and they asked God to deliver them. But when God came to deliver them, they weren't ready because they were not preparing for deliverance in that moment. And so I could assimilate myself to that, right? So God kind of snatched me up, sort of, kind of. And like it wasn't like, oh, okay, God, I'm gonna do this, and then you could show me how. It's like He put me here, and then I had to learn how to truly trust Him, right? And that's a whole different level of a faith walk, because now He puts you into a position where you have no choice but to truly learn how to trust Him, truly learn how to watch and wait for Him and listen for his his leading, his guiding, right? And so it's not like, oh, I'm making this decision to go here and then I'm figuring it out, right? I was placed there and then, okay, okay, God, show me how you gonna let us walk this out, right? So it took my trust and my faith in Him to a whole other level.
Gotcha. Now, your trust and faith had to go to another level, but you had to say yes to that. What was that yes for you? What did that yes look like? Because this is so action packed. I mean, it's so encompassing. I mean, yes, you were here 10 years, but you were here with a husband who had a foundation. You weren't here and by yourself doing this. You had to start over in a new place. So,
Mhm.
what was your yes? What did that yes look
So starting over at a new place, my yes started there in the sense where I walked away pretty much from everything. Um, and it felt like that's what I needed to do in that moment. So every day, my yes was, it felt like small yeses, like, yes, Lord, what do you want me to do today? But then it got to a point, like, I'm looking back now on that whole picture for the last 7 years. And I've been saying to someone, like, even today, I shared that with a friend, like, when you give God your yes, it's like you think about a millionaire or a billionaire, like Bill Gates or one of those people. They handed you a check, no figure on there, and they said, just do whatever you want. Like, you give God a blank check and you have no idea how he's gonna spend it. You don't know if he's gonna go to the thrift store, if he's gonna go up to East Fifth Avenue. You know what I'm saying? You don't know how he's going to spend it. You don't know where he's gonna take you. You just know because he said, I have great plans for you, and those plans will not harm you. They will not do you any harm. They're gonna be good, they're gonna be prosperous. You're trusting the end is gonna look that way, but you have no idea what that in between looks like. And that was what my yes looked like.
Wow. As you were in that faith walk and in that new space, in that new place, did you do any kind of exercises to do self checks, self check ins, self love type things? Or were you so, okay, I'm so inundated, I don't have time for that? Because I know we as moms, we're so such nurturers that we don't really check in on us. Did you find the time to check in on you?
Not for a while. When I moved, my daughter was going through a very rough time. She was having a lot of mental health issues at the time. And so I was very consumed with survival mode, just trying to get us forward, trying to figure out how to make these bills work. And when I tell you it had to be a God thing, because if the me, I have to make sure everything's going to pencil out, and I'm very calculating, right? But if I had been able to do the calculations, I wouldn't have even moved, right? And so
Right.
I had to be, I was so much more consumed with the bills and how I'm going to make this bill work. And, you know, God would just keep showing me how to make this work, how to do this one, how to do that one. And He just kept making that happen. And, like you're playing a game, and as you move from one level, you probably see some of the same things you saw before, but then it takes you to another little stuff and challenges that you got to figure out how up here work. That's kind of what it looked like. And to be honest, probably for a good 3 years, like, I didn't check in to say, how are you doing, Sandy? What's going on with you? I was like in autopilot mode. I was kind of in this numb space of just being a mom, trying to make sure my daughter was okay, my son was okay, and, doing this very delicate dance and just really thrusting myself on God. And this is really when I know what it really means when it says trust in the Lord with all of your heart. And I love the amplified version of the Bible because it gives you all these words for trust. And it says, lean and just thrust yourself, like throw yourself on God, right? And I really had to throw myself on Him and watch Him just work things all out. And some days I tell you, it wasn't easy. There were some days I'm like, God, you don't see what's going on like right now. You got to do something right now, right? And if you don't do it right now, it feels like it's going to fall apart right now. Um,
Yeah.
but as he continued and as I just continued to really lean in, he made all things beautiful. He made all things beautiful.
You said you were a person of, you're that calculations person. But one thing about trusting God, He said, I don't calculate like you do. I do exponential and multiplication. You know? All right. Dr. Lorinda says, what type of coach or niche are you? Coaches call themselves according to what they do. So she's asking, what's your niche?
So right now, and I use the word right now, God has led me to help women, especially women who have gone through a separation after a very long relationship or a divorce. So it doesn't have to be like you were married, but even with common law marriage. So I help women to come back to living their best life, really understanding what it means to live their best life. And God gave me a program called the Glowing Effect, and so I help women to glow again.
I love it. And you're glowing too, Queen. You are glowing.
Thank
Yes, 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 yes. Now, as far as let's paint the picture for people because sometimes people are like, well, yeah, she just got it together. But y'all don't understand. How old were you when you got married?
Oh, child. I got married at 21. Well, 20 heading to 21, 3 months away from being 21 years old, got married. And my book talks a lot about even that. As God really helps me to heal, my book is a transformation. It's a reflective transformation, like a transformative journey. And so in my book, there is no blaming of anyone. It's really seeing the bigger picture for what it was. But at 21, 2021, when I got married, I had no clue what marriage was. I had no clue what I was getting into. I had no clue what it would take to sustain a marriage, right? I didn't even know myself, Aaliyah,
Right.
if I was to be honest, right? And
Mhm.
so the theme of my book really kind of puts that out there where it's like I moved from being a married girl to becoming the woman, right? And it took divorce for me to become that woman. It took divorce for me to see myself, to learn me, to know who I was, and I had to date myself again. I had to start to figure out what did I like, what did I, because I didn't know any of that at 21 at all. And that's the truth. And it doesn't mean people can't be 21 and know themselves. I'm just saying me at 21 didn't know myself.
Right. I can relate. I was 24 and I didn't know myself. So I look, I was right there on that bus with you. Okay. Um, what would you say to the woman that um she's now in that space of he just left and I don't know what I'm gonna do. He was the breadwinner. Um, I have these children and I'm lost. What encouragement or what words would you say to this woman right now who's listening, who's in that space and she's like, my hands are up. I don't know what to do. What would you say to her?
Wow. Um, that's a tough place to be in. That's the first thing I'll say. And I'll say to you, be kind to yourself. Um, so many times we blame ourselves and we think because something didn't work or something failed that we are that. So we tend to personalize that to say, I am a failure. But it is okay to see that things can fail and you are not a failure. And everything that you need to move forward, God has already placed it inside of you from birth. It's not something He's going to give you now, it's already placed inside of you from birth. And what I would say to you is, in spite of the storm that's going on around you, find that very quiet place to be still for God to start to really show you the power pack woman that you are. And when you find that, He's going to start to lead you step by step. And it will be hard days. There will be tough days. But just know they cannot overtake you. Isaiah
Yes.
43 was one chapter that really kept me. It says, when you go through the deep waters, but they will not overtake you. He didn't say we're not going to go through those waters. It's just not going to overtake you. When you go through the fire, it's not going to burn you up. It's going to feel like everything is coming apart. But trust that as things are falling apart, they're truly falling into place. And you're
Love
going
it.
to, you are going to make it. And don't do this alone. Find support. There's always people ready to support you. Find support, lean in. And that's going to be your first level of trust because most of the time when we leave, when we get out of those spaces, we find it hard to trust. We don't feel like anybody can truly understand what we're going through, but there's always somebody who has been through what you've been through. And God will put those people in your life to walk with you step by step until you make it to the other side.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. Because you have so many times where the enemy keep you making you feel like you are in the island, on the island, all by yourself. And so, as Coach Sandy just said, you're not alone. Now, I want to speak to these women. We're gonna go there, Sandy. Okay, we're
Okay,
gonna go.
let's go there.
So,
Wherever we're going.
I want, wherever there is, I want to speak to these women who has not gotten to know themselves and to, like you said, I have to get to know me. I have to get to love me. Because for me personally, for 3 years, I did not date anybody. I did not talk to anybody. It was me and God. And so it takes that when you've been with somebody for a long period of time, it may not take you 3 years, but it takes you time to get to know you and love on you. And like you say, date you again. What would you say to these women who are jumping in and out of this relationship, in and out of this relationship? What would you say to that? We got to go there. Somebody's in
Ab-
that space.
Thank you for inviting me there. Let's put it that way. Um, so when I got separated 2016, and I'm hoping this will help. When I got separated 2016, um, I never dated anyone. And I truly waited for God to tell me when the marriage was over because I didn't know if the separation was just temporary, if it was just a time for us to work on ourselves. And I really, like I told you at first, I didn't have time to think of me. But then when I did start thinking of me, I truly made me my focus because half of the time that's the problem. People get married, they divorce, they get married again, and the divorce rate for second and third marriages doesn't work because we find ourselves blaming the other party and we think we're all good and we're really far from all good, right? And until we really are ready to look at ourselves, face our own demons, start to really see our own weaknesses, what our strengths are, and really work on us, then we're always going to be attracting the same people because unhealed people attract unhealed people, right? And so even after I got divorced, I didn't even attempt to date. I said, God, this is year 7 of not really, and God truly, I waited and I said, God, I don't even want to marry again. I don't want to do this again. But God knows that there's so much love in me to give as I healed. I read The Master of Love by Don Ruiz, and I also read A Return to Love by Marion Williamson. And those two books just really showed me what love really is. Like, you read the Bible and you hear of love, but this just kind of really blew it up for me. And after that, and becoming healed, doing therapy if you need to, go to counseling if you have to, talk to a pastor if you need to, truly be willing to face yourself as a third party if you need to, and see your own flaws because we're not perfect. And then, once you're healed, you're going to attract different people. So, after I became healed, well, sure enough, God decided, well, I think it's time to tap on your shoulders. So I have a new love interest. He is the super sweetest person that I've ever met. And God still knows it is taking time. And so he made the situation very perfect, where we're learning each other from afar. And so there is no space for physical attraction at this moment, or the physical touching is really getting to know one another on a deeper and a more spiritual level. And I saw this little clip recently where the man was saying spirituality is the biggest box. If you can align spiritually, but you got to know yourself first. You've got to really know what your strengths, your weaknesses are. How can you curtail those? They do that for business, right? And so we should do that for ourselves because marriage goes far way more than business. It's a more lifetime commitment. Relationships are meant to be enjoyed, but first you've got to be able to enjoy yourself. Don't be afraid of being alone if that's what you need to do in order to truly heal so that you can attract the right people.
And I hope that some of the men that are listening, this is for you as well. because you need to heal that from that place before you attract that same type of woman that you don't want back in your life. I remember as when we separated, it was like our way out. The things that I no longer wanted were like a magnet sitting on my shoulders, and I was like, mm-mm. That's why I said, you know what, Lord, until I heal, until you say it's time, I don't want to even talk to you. And that was a choice that I made. And I'm so glad I did because I got to know me again. Because at 20 and 21, you don't know yourself. Even at 24, you don't really know yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so you just let God do the work. I love how you said it. Get in touch with who you are. And oh my goodness, let Him show you who you are. Because Coach Sandy, I remember the Lord telling me, like when I wrote the children's book, when He was trying to give me the book on fire to inspire, I was like, but Lord, I don't know nothing about that. I'm a children's author. He said, if you get out of the way, I'm going to show you who you are. And so, for those of you who are listening to Coach Sandy and I, some of you may need to get out of your own way so that God can show you who you are, so that He can take you to that next place. Trusting and adjusting because he just need to tweak a couple of things, just tweak it just a little bit, like
Mm-hmm.
is it the Allen wrench or whatever, just taking it, just just making a couple of adjustments.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So the book, how do they get the book? How do they follow you and all this good stuff?
Oh, wow. So the book is available on Amazon. It is called Gracefully Broken, by Sandy Huggins. And you can find me on Facebook. I go by Sandy Huggins. I have a business Facebook page, which is Mind Glowing Transformational Coaching. And I also have a Facebook private group, Mind Glowing Conversations. Um, and Alea, if I can say this real quickly, in that process of trying to not date people, especially when you're very used to being around someone, one of the things that at one point a friend told me, he was like, and I'm going to be very frank and candid, he was like, man, I was worried about you for a minute right there because I thought you had like done with feelings, right? And there was something that the Holy Spirit did for me, and I learned this, like whatever you focus on, that's what you magnify, and what you magnify becomes very big in your life. And so if you magnify your healing process, that's going to become the big thing in your life. If you magnify the desire for a partner, that's what's going to be the big thing in your life, right? So whatever you focus on is what you magnify, and what you magnify becomes that big thing in your life. And that was what God did for me in order to really get me to a place where I didn't desire to be with anyone. Not because I didn't have feelings, but because He was doing a work in me. And so as I focused on my healing more and more, that's what became the magnifying thing in my life.
Yes. As the saying goes, what you focus on, it will grow. And that is so true. I just focused on my relationship with God, like you said. That was my thing, He and I. And from there, we just really got to a new place.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different definition of transformation. What's your definition? That's what Dr. Lorinda just asked.
Whew-wee. So thank you so much for your question. So for me, transformation, everything that is on my page, I'm a butterfly girl because I think that's the biggest example of transformation. And I think I started attracting that type of transformation. Transformation is when you literally have not a 360-degree turn, but a 180. Because if you do 360, you kind of come right back to the same place, right? But if you do a 180, then you're kind of going in the different direction. And it starts with a mindset shift. And so, even in my program, the glowing effect, one of the first things, so the glowing is like an acronym, and it kind of spreads out depending on the group I'm working with. But the first word always remains the same, which is gratitude, because when you start becoming grateful, and most of the time people are grateful for the external things, like what is outside. But God started to show me, start to look at the gifts that I gave you and be grateful for those things, the small things, even the little quirks. Be grateful for those things because I made all of it and I made them in you for a reason. And so transformation is really when you're at a place where you truly feel like a brand new person in the same body, but your mindset has totally shifted. And it's a process. Transformation is a process, but it is a worthwhile process that I would say get on board. Transformation is real, it is possible. Hard work, but very, very fulfilling when you get here. You feel like a brand new person.
And well worth it. Whoo, well worth it
Well
all.
worth it. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. Great question. Dr. Miranda is actually a grief therapist. And
Oh.
so um, a lot of times people think about grief being someone passing away, but grief, that's not necessarily grief all the time.
So I wrote about that in my book. There's a whole chapter on grief. And I didn't just talk about grieving the marriage, grieving the friend of the man, like grieving all the parts of him that I'm now missing. But then I had to grieve thought processes. I had to grieve. I had to decide to let go of things, things that shaped my perspective for a long time. Cultural norms. Some things it may look normal, but it's not right for you, right? So I had to grieve a lot of things. I had to grieve songs and sayings, and I'm from the Caribbean, and we have all these proverbs and all these things, but I had to grieve some of those things, let them go, put them where they belonged, in order for me to truly become who I am today. So grief is definitely not just the loss by death. As a matter of fact, in my book, I spoke about that there are two D words that most people, as married people, fear the most. It's death and divorce because they're both death in different ways.
That's true. Um, I had a question that just popped up in my mind, and then it left. Hold on. um, wow, I can't believe I forgot it. It was as you were talking. It's like there it is. Okay, you were just talking about death and divorce. Oh, as far as grief, I mean not grief, the part of like when you had your days, because even as you're doing the self healing and just really getting in touch with who God is calling you to be. What did you do to keep yourself encouraged and inspired and empowered on those low days? What did you do on those days to keep you in a place of I got to stay here and not here?
Mhm.
You know,
So I love to journal, um, but my journal is not dear diary or oh this happened today. My journal takes on the form of a prayer, but I free flow write whatever is just in my heart. um and I would just put it all the way out there, like throw it out on the paper. And that really helped me because it's almost like I was writing a prayer, a letter to God in prayer form, but it's talking about the things that are happening, how I'm viewing them, how they're affecting me. And in those spaces and times, those quiet moments of writing, it's like God would really just give me a word or a hushing or a phone call or something, right? That let me always remember that he was there. So that's it for me. And anywhere I find a little spring with some water that I could take off my shoes and put my feet in that water and just sit there in that moment were like my soothing points or things that really helped to comfort me and keep me going through there. And as I looked at my children, I knew what I had promised. Like my legacy has to thrive and live. So they were like my fighting board. Um, but that may not be what it is for you. But go back into yourself. It could be coloring, it could be drawing, it could be talking, it could be singing and acting all crazy in the shower. Whatever that is for you, to keep you going, It doesn't mean you're ignoring your feelings. It doesn't mean that you're putting it aside, but you have to be strengthened to keep that journey going. And as I say that, I remember like Elisha, right? After he won the battle and one woman threatened his life and he ran all the way to the wilderness and he's like, God, I just want to die. I don't want to do this no more. And he's like, I feel like I'm the only prophet. The first thing that God did was just wake him up to feed him, fed him, put him back to sleep, go back to bed, right? And then he eventually he woke him up for the journey and he reminded him, you're not alone. There are 250 prophets over here that has not bowed their knee to Baal. And sometimes we feel like we're alone and it puts us in that place of but if we can truly remember that we're not alone and what you're going through, when you get on the other side, there's someone waiting for your help, for you to take their hand, will keep you going.
Love it, love it, love it. So, what final words would you leave with the audience? Of course, you're going to still tell them again how they can, follow up with getting your book and following
Oh,
you. But what final words would you leave to kind of just leave a place right here that says, I got this, you know, or whatever's in your heart to leave because somebody's listening tonight and it's not just listening, they're listening.
so your topic tonight, Aaliyah, was trusting and adjusting. And once again, thank you so much for having me on here. And trusting is not easy, but we do it every day. When you go to work, you just sit on a chair. You never check the legs. So it means you have some level of faith in you. You were built with a mechanism inside of you to trust. However, those things can get clouded because of betrayal, hurt, and all of those things. But just know that I read this scripture and I can't remember the particular chapter or verse, but it was in Ecclesiastes. And God literally says, I have you in the palm of my hand. And I opened my palm that morning and I looked at my palm and I'm like, oh my God, like he got me right here. So, like, it literally means he sees everything that I do. And what I want you to know, everyone on here, is that trusting God is really meaning like understanding who he is to you first and understanding who you are to him because it's a two-way street. Trust is a relational situation, right? So because if I know who I am but I don't know who God is to me, I can't trust him. And if I say I trust God but I don't truly know who I am to him, then it makes it hard for me to truly trust him either way. But when he says you are the apple of his eye, when he says to you that you are handpicked, like when he says you're chosen, I had to look that word up recently because as I was writing my book, I realized I was still struggling with the residues of rejection. And so as I started to fast and pray, and the Lord just really showed me this word. Like I always said it, oh, I'm chosen, I'm chosen. But this time, God really zoomed me in. And I pulled up the Strongs and I looked at the word, I looked at the dictionary, and the word said chosen means handpicked. That means think about you going to the farmer's market and they have these bags of apple, right? But he didn't pick that up. He went over to the open apples, right? And he said, let me take this one. And he handpicked you. And because he handpicked you and he has you in the palm of his hands, he's going to take care of you, regardless what the situation looks like. It's not a surprise to him. He got you. And because God got you, you got this. And because you got this, because God got you. And whatever your situation is, whatever you're going through in this moment, understand who you are to Christ and who Christ is to you because it is a two-way relationship. You are handpicked, you are the apple of his eye. He is your father, he is your friend, he is your savior, he is your keeper, your deliverer, your refuge, your present help in every time of trouble and need. And when you start to see him for that, and understand that because you are his child and you are handpicked, he's going to take care of you, because you as a father, you as a mother will look for your children and take care of them. And if they ask you for bread, you're not going to give them stone. And he said, if you as a earthly person can actually do that for your children in your carnal mind, think of me exponentially doing that for you, because I made you, I created you. You are mine and I am yours.
Wow. Now that's how you lead and drop the mic. That's how you do it, Coach Sandy. Well, tell them one more time how they can follow you and get your book.
So, this beautiful book right here, Gracefully Broken, is available on Amazon, and I can be followed on Facebook, Sandy, SandyHuggins, and my business Facebook page, Mind Glowing Transformational Coaching, and my private Facebook group, Mind Glowing Conversations, where I talk about the program for Behind the Veil.
Love, love, love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. We totally appreciate it and have enjoyed it. And thank you all for those who have, Dr. Lorinda, who asked questions, and those who have joined us. Y'all make sure you sow this into someone's life. This broadcast, the replay. Go out to our YouTube page and go ahead and subscribe and send that to someone. Sow that into someone. And do me one more favor. Go out there and leave a comment on what stuck with you that Coach Sandy said, or anything that was said tonight that really left a place right here for you and not just here. But Sandy, we love, 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 love you and appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your talents, and your gifts with us. And we are looking for greater and more coming your way.
Thank you so much once again for having me, and congratulations again on your upcoming ninth year.
Thank you. Stay backstage. I want to tell you one more thing, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, y'all. So we have had an awesome, awesome interview with Coach Sandy. So if you all missed any of this, make sure that you go back and um, listen to the replay. And please share this, so this into someone's life, because someone needs to hear this great word of encouragement and inspiration. Again, if you are um, if you missed any of it, go to the replay. We will be back next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with my friend Melinda. Melinda will be talking about ministry in action. So we'll be talking with her about how she is actually operating in that. So as God gave us that topic, um, she's actually living it out. So we're going to be talking to Melinda next week. So come on back and join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Aaliyah, your purpose midwife. We'll see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all have a great week.